we're in a crisis because we wait to understand what's coming down the pipeline for us in the senior living, the senior care industry. There's not enough. Even if everyone could afford to move into a senior living community, there are not enough apartments, there's not enough staff to take care of everyone. And so that's why we see such a big thrust in senior living, because we all know we are in for it. We are bracing for how do we care for our aging population.
What if the most powerful way to change how families decide on senior living isn't a new ad, but a national public media series that puts real choices on screen? Today, we go behind the camera with the woman who built that show from zero.
Welcome to From Leads to Leases, a CCR growth podcast that helps senior living providers transform their complex challenges into opportunities. Listen in for stories from industry leaders, innovative strategies, and insights. And with our expertise, learn how to increase occupancy faster, guaranteed.
Welcome back to another episode of From Leads to Leases, the podcast that dives deep into the senior living and senior care industries, bringing you insights, strategies, and stories from the experts at the forefront of innovation, leadership, and care. I'm your host, Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. And for those of you who don't know about us, CCR Growth is a full-service marketing and growth agency that's exclusive to the senior living industry. And through this podcast, I'm here to guide you through the evolving landscape of senior care, exploring the innovations, the strategies, and leadership insights that are shaping the future of the industry. So whether you're a provider, a caregiver, or industry leader, this show is here to help you make informed decisions and create meaningful impact. All right, today's guest is Melissa Fritz, creator, executive producer, and host of Inside Senior Living, the PBS North docu-series that follows real families as they navigate aging and care decisions. The series was built to spark conversations between caregivers and their loved ones, to celebrate the people who serve in senior care and point viewers to trusted local resources. You can watch season 1 on pbs.org, or you can stream it on PBS Passport. Melissa didn't come up through television. She started in senior living sales and consulting, and during the pandemic, while helping her own family through her father's Alzheimer's, she saw a gap for honest, practical content and decided to build it herself. That decision became Inside Senior Living and the show's Real Families, Real Choice lens. Today, she's developing season 2 and expanding distribution while keeping the show's educational core front and center. And she's also taking the stage at Smash 2025 in Las Vegas this October, where the focus is on senior living marketing and sales outcomes. So, Melissa, welcome to the show. I'm so glad to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
I know I talked a little bit about the series in the intro, and I wanted to just start out by you telling your story about where this concept came from. I know we kind of talked before. You said something about you wanting to build the series that you wished existed when you went on the senior living journey. So can you take us to that moment you realized that the resources you need didn't really exist? And what did you try first, and what gap did you see?
Well, this whole concept came out of the pandemic, where I was working at the community level in sales and marketing. All of us at that time, life was not normal. And certainly senior living sales and marketing was not normal. It wasn't normal going into a community and having to, change into scrubs and wear an N95 mask, especially not being a clinical person. So I would go home just desperate to figure out a way to help connect families with more resources that I know are out there. There's a lot of great senior living resources, actually. But what I found really interesting, especially during the pandemic, was why aren't people finding them? And why are most families waiting until they're in a crisis until they do any research into senior living? So that, coupled with the phone call I get from my mom, where she has broken her ankle and she cannot take care of my father with Alzheimer's dementia, and they happen to live 2 hours away. That really sparked my desperation to find something that starts sparking these conversations. I mean, really, the intent of the show is really, number one, to spark the conversation so that families are not put in this place of waiting until they're in or near a crisis to investigate senior living. And so I found for myself, even though I had worked in the industry for, let's see, over 7 years at that time, it's different when it's your own parent. And that was the catalyst or kind of the plot twist for me that really changed my story and just made me determined to figure out a way to produce content, to connect people, to start sparking these conversations. And I just didn't know how hard, creating and producing and distributing a TV show was or would be. Um, I'm really glad that I stuck to it, and it's a lot. It's so much luck.
I'm in awe of what you actually built and the time that you built it. What was the catalyst for it being televised? Because I know a lot of communities, they try to connect with families, they try to do the education piece so that they're thinking about these things before they're in a crisis, but usually they're using like brochures and tours to bring that out. I mean, what convinced you that a television series would be the most effective path?
What convinced me is that I do know of so many communities, so many corporations that have produced excellent, great quality content that's educational. Even our state resources across America are fabulous, but there's not distribution. So you have a beautiful YouTube channel that nobody's seeing. And so that just struck me as really odd. Why is the general public not seeing these channels? And what I believe, my theory is that people don't even know what to Google. That's how little we know as a society about the process of aging and finding senior living and senior care. And so for me, I just thought if I'm going to do this, I have to dream big and the biggest I can imagine, because that's going to reach the most eyeballs. And that's the only way that I'm going to be able to make an impact to help my fellow content creators that are doing, in my opinion, just such a great job, including yourself, to help tell your story, to help tell the stories of all these great companies that have the education piece. They're just not getting to a broader audience.
I know season 1 too, it avoids promotion and kind of centers on the education and dignity side of things. The belief around that, that honest, specific stories, they're going to reduce that fear and unlock decisions for reluctant families. Which story beats consistently to help someone go from like a no way family to actually reconsidering senior living?
Well, I would say what I found, and certainly doing this show, was families that got out and actually looked at senior living, even if their intent was completely solidified on aging in place at home. The families that could get past the insistent that, nope, I'm going to age in place, I'm going to age in my own home, and come hell or high water, this is what I'm going to do. But the problem is, what if? Planning ahead. And so what was successful for me and some of the episodes in the show was the families that were willing to take a look and willing to create a plan, willing to have a plan, willing to have those conversations with their families. Those turned out to be the most successful.
Were there patterns across season 1 that you noticed that kind of led to them stalling their decisions? And then if so, what finally unlocked the momentum and got some of them to say yes?
I would say in season 1, most of our cast families were open to conversation. We're open to making a plan. And you will see, obviously, I'm not going to give it away, but you will see in especially one of our episodes, to me, it's very obvious the family that is very much in denial and doesn't want to face reality. I think that creates a very stark contrast if you watch all 8 episodes. The families that will avoid crisis and have avoided crisis are the ones that are willing to talk about it and make a plan.
I was looking at some data too, just about move-ins and the whole process of going from, someone being a prospect to someone becoming a resident. In 2024, the data point said something like only 24% of tourists converted to move-ins. For assisted living, the average length of the sales cycle was like 95 days, and for independent living, it's 145 days, which is crazy that that's a long sales cycle. And I know for CCRCs, it's even longer. I've worked with some that on average it's 3 years, you know? Do you feel like that lack of education is a big reason why that sales cycle is so long?
I'm not sure if it's a lack of education as far as how long the sales cycle is for senior living. My experience on the community side is I truly believe that people, in addition to not doing their research ahead of time, not having the information and knowing what the process is, they wait until there's a crisis. But also, I think a really big factor is the fact that people are, in general, waiting a lot longer than they should be to make a move because of finances. They're afraid of money, running out of money. It's a financial issue more than it is a lack of education issue to some extent. But they go hand in hand, because the more you know, the more you can financially investigate what your options are. And there are so many different senior living communities for all different types, all different levels of income and socioeconomic status. So I think the more we educate ourselves, the more we start talking about it, the more we just make this an everyday conversation, the better off we'll be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a huge decision that impacts not just the person moving in potentially, but the entire family unit. Talking about trust a little bit, back to the show, I think it's awesome that you went the PBS route. I think public media, there's guardrails, right? So it's going to limit the promotional aspect of what you can put out there and force your content to earn trust. What did you learn about earning trust when you can't sell on air?
Do you mean earning trust with the public?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I feel like it's much easier to earn trust with the public when they know that you're not trying to sell them something. And that is why I believe PBS is the number one most trusted media brand in America,
Hmm.
because they have made a commitment to that. And their editorial content standards are extremely rigorous. So that was one of the first things I did when I got this deal to do this with PBS is I downloaded their editorial and financial fundraising standards to make sure that we were in compliance.
And it's also the FCC too, right? Aren't there's rules
Yes.
or guidelines that you have to follow for those? Did that kind of, I guess that probably helps shape how you wrote and cut season one, right?
Absolutely, because we just had to be mindful of things like, accidental product placement, or when we were interviewing experts, we would give them credit, for their position, but there wouldn't be a promotion about their organization. And certainly product placement type situations where, we have a couple scenes where we have a cast member on treadmill and exercise equipment. And I remember going through the editing process and pointing out, okay, we should probably shade out the logo that's front and center that you can see for about 30 seconds. So
Right. That makes
it's
sense.
it's very different.
I know in 2025, there were some rescissions that passed that are kind of clawing back the budgets that were already appropriated for public stations and producers. So I would imagine that season two for Inside Senior Living, it's going to have to kind of shift how you're approaching that. Are there changes in your distribution method or underwriting now that have changed since those rescissions have gone into place?
Yes. So everything about getting a TV show produced is about money, is about funding. And so we were really fortunate that the timing of Inside Senior Living this first season, I don't think if I had gone to pitch this a year ago, we wouldn't be making the show at all, just because of these funding issues that are going on with PBS and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. So in the TV business in general, there's a lot of tightening of budgets. So the process right now that we're in is we actually have funders we have a couple companies who have identified, hey, we want to fund the show, but we run into conflict of interest and issues like that if we go with PBS, but they might not have enough funding for us to go like with a mainstream network. So we're just trying to figure that out right now. It really does affect how the show will be distributed in the next season and beyond. But I'm very hopeful that we can continue either with PBS or find something similar that we can continue to deliver the content in the original format of just the continuity of integrity, that we are truly out there to further the cause of this entire industry. Because most of us who are in senior living, and especially us senior living salespeople, most of us are in it for the right reasons. We just want to help people. And so my real hope and dream is that the universe will produce enough philanthropists in the senior living and beyond industry to provide the funding to keep moving this forward so that we can really grow this into a movement, similar to back in the day when, depression and mental health was very stigmatized. It wasn't mainstream, but now it is. And so I often compare those two to what I'm trying to do right now. I'm trying to bring this whole conversation of aging and senior living and even dying into mainstream conversation and culture. So it's a very lofty goal, I realize, but I feel like we in this industry have an opportunity right now to change it. And we need to do everything we can to further this.
What if a commercial platform came knocking rather than just an educational platform? What would that opportunity look like? How would that change the show?
A commercial platform could change the show in a couple different ways. And there are different, there are different ways to do this show within the bounds of what I created it to be. I have copywritten the concept, or I have registered the concept for the show. And my original concept was to create a much more real estate and truly inside the senior living industry show, where I would be bringing cast member families into more senior living communities. What happened with season 1 is I couldn't get the access. So I just, even as much as I have a lot of relationships inside the senior industry, I think because the show hadn't been produced, it hadn't been proven. And I think there was a lot of speculation, maybe a little fear, because what we see in the media oftentimes when people and television crews go into a senior living community, it oftentimes doesn't turn out to be a real positive picture that they're painting. So I'm happy that now I've proven that my intent is to paint the picture of the truth of the good things that are happening in senior living and the benefits of senior living, so that we can move forward with a commercial, whether it's PBS or a mainline like a Roku or Netflix or whatever that is. I don't think that the structure would change that much. I think it just changes as far as who can sponsor and advertise. I mean, PBS, it's a sponsorship. On a mainstream broadcaster or network, it's an advertiser.
So I would imagine now that season 1's wrapped up and people can see it for what it is, that your kind of authority and credibility have obviously increased. So has that level of access that you're getting now, has that increased, or has it been easier to get it than before?
Absolutely. It is like if you Google how difficult is it to get a TV show, deal with, with an idea, it's virtually zero, because what I learned, and I didn't know this, is even PBS, all of the mainstream studios and streaming networks, they want new ideas, but they want proven ideas because their jobs are on the line, and it has to be profitable. It has to be a good concept that'll produce results, and results for TV is viewers. So they are looking for something that is going to attract viewership. And when we went to pitch this on an international level at the market with all of the major streaming, HGTV, A&E, Lifetime, Magnolia, PBS, all of those, what I heard so often was, I love this idea. This is so great. This is so needed. They would tell me their own story of a loved one who they're dealing with who has, but I'm not really sure, because this hasn't been done before. So now that this is a proven concept, now that we have successfully created a national TV series and received 2 Emmy nominations for it, it definitely makes the next seasons much easier to sell and to produce and to gain
Yeah,
sponsorship money too.
for sure. You just glossed over that you just got 2 Emmy nominations. I mean, that's pretty amazing in and of itself. I love that. Congratulations, by the way. So
Thank you. I can't even believe it. Well, I mean, it's weird because I try to stop myself and appreciate what I've done in the last 4 years. But, when you're working so hard and you've got a goal, and I've also learned that I'm building a business in the meantime. I kind of miss the days in a way of going to my job, helping seniors, helping their families and getting my paycheck. And that was wonderful. This has been extremely hard. A lot of personal investment put into it, just physically, emotionally, financially, that people just don't realize. So, my goodness, to get not one, but 2 Emmy nominations is really for me rewarding because it validates the importance of what I'm doing. And it actually helps encourage me to keep going because it is very frustrating. It is very hard to keep at it, to keep trying to solicit funders and then keep things moving along with the actual brand and show.
yeah, just
So
from a
thank you.
branding perspective, yeah, no, absolutely. I think from a branding perspective, being able to say the Emmy nominated show Inside Senior Living, or eventually the Emmy award winning show Inside Senior Living, that's as much social proof as you'll ever need to be able to do so much more and get the message out to more viewers. So I love that for you. I know most people, when they think about creating a show, I think it starts and stops with something like what I'm doing, right? A podcast or maybe a YouTube channel or something like that. So if you wanted to pitch something like this to a group of networks, I mean, what's the best way to do it? Is it when you pitch, do you just pitch the idea? Do you create a pilot of your own and submit it to them? Like what does that process look like?
Very good question. So the process to get a show deal, like a development deal, is you want to create a very clear pitch document. You want to have a very clear purpose, a log line, a summary, and then you want to create something will show proof of your concept. So you do not need to do a whole pilot episode because you can achieve that by doing what's called a sizzle reel, which is virtually like a trailer for, say, from leads to leases. And the beautiful thing about you having a podcast with video is you could compile composites from your YouTube channel and create a 2-minute sizzle reel with your pitch. And then you go out and you actually pitch that to the networks, which it's very hard. And I tell people, if you think you're going to just come up with this idea, do a sizzle reel, create a pitch document, and get in front of a buyer without making a significant financial investment, you're wrong. I'm sure that it's been done before, but you need to get in front of the right people. And you have to go to the markets, you have to go to festivals, you have to get your sizzle reel in front of people.
Yeah, there's no shortcuts for sure, which is
Mm-mm.
daunting in and of itself, I can imagine.
Yes, yes. But think about it, these networks, they want to know that you have, why would they invest in you if you aren't investing in you? So it's very interesting because what my husband and I discovered when we went to this big marketplace is there are so many great ideas. I mean, thousands of great ideas that people have put so much money into, but there's only so much money at these networks to give funding to, and they're very, very skittish about putting money into someone who is not proven, proven producer, has money backing them already. It's a really rare thing.
I mean, I would think too, given where we're at in terms of the baby boomer population exploding into the senior living market, this is probably a timely topic that a lot more networks are going to want to pick up coverage on pretty quickly, because just to serve their demographic, we've got the sandwich generation who are all trying to figure out, how they're going to manage taking care of mom or dad or both, plus their own kids. And then you've got this influx of older adults who are also trying to navigate their options. And so I think it's going to be an interesting shift. And you already see it. I mean, you look on Netflix now, you see there's a couple of movies that are all focused on, senior living. And
Yeah.
I don't recall there ever being a time like that ever
No.
before
No.
now. So it's pretty interesting.
It's very exciting for me to see we've got, whether you like it or not, The Golden Bachelor on ABC. Hugely successful. They did not expect that, They
Right.
did not
Yeah.
expect that, but the population actually enjoys this content. A Man on the Inside with Netflix, super great show,
Yeah. It was
funny.
excellent.
I love how Ted Danson just nails it as far as inside what it looks to live inside of a senior living community, and then the different players. And then you have Tyler Perry does an assisted living comedy show. Bradley Cooper just did a PBS on caregiving.
Yeah,
So
it was
there's
great.
definitely, I think we're going to see more and more quality content coming on board because there's a demand for it. And the more content, whether it's comedy or drama or documentary, these are the types of things that start changing our society and our culture, and will hopefully continue to spark the conversations.
Yeah, I think two things it does is it destigmatizes senior living, which still has this weird perspective. And it also desensitizes people to it being a crisis, because if they've already been exposed to it multiple times, they're going to know if they start seeing the signs in their parent, if they're not getting around the house as well as they used to, or there's some cognitive decline, things like that. If we're talking about it more in our regular conversations or the shows we're watching, it's going to be far less of a thing for people to actually come to grips with the fact that, oh, maybe I need to look into this with my family member, you know?
Yes, absolutely. And the more they see on TV or online what assisted living looks like, what living looks like, even what memory care looks like. This is not a nursing home.
Mm-hmm.
It's amazing how even today, with the internet and all the resources that are available online, most of the calls that I would get, and I'm curious to know if your listeners or viewers would say the same thing. It's shocking to me, the older adults who I don't want, my daughters wanting me to move to a nursing home, and they're calling it assisted living. Like, there's a lot of misinformation out there because people don't want to talk about it. We don't want to talk about getting older. We don't want to face aging. And that's just something that, gosh, what's the alternative? I kind of like aging personally. I'm into it because it means I'm living. So we have to start somewhere. And if all of us do our part, and in the senior industry, in the entertainment industry, I truly believe we can start a movement. We can change the way we're viewing aging and this whole process, and viewing our elders. So many other cultures treat their elders different. There is just such a greater respect in some other cultures for our elders. There's a lot of things we could learn from other countries and cultures when it comes to our elders.
Absolutely. A recent guest of mine too was talking about the fact that only 10% of the available market ever moves into senior living. So I think a big part of that is that perception out there that's still seeing it a certain way. And I do think that the more exposure and the more normalized this becomes, that number will start to increase. Not only because there's more people in the market looking for housing, But I just think that people will see it more as a acceptable option, right? It's either the family members that are pushing back or the older adult themselves who have that sordid view. I mean, my parents are in that category. I'm not moving into one of those places. It's like, have you ever visited one of those places? They're like 78 years old. I'm like, do you still want to be walking up and down 3 flights of stairs for the next 10 years? Do you think that's safe? So
Yeah.
I think just education and exposure is going to be so important.
Yes. My own mother. Oh my goodness. After my father passed away, I don't want to, there's so many old people there. I'm too young.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, you are on the younger side, Mom, but what's wrong with being around older people? I mean, that right there tells you our perception in society of the value, how we value older adults and being around walkers. I don't want to be around, I don't want to go have lunch in a restaurant that has walkers lined up in the hallway. What does that say about us and our attitudes? I think that's very interesting.
For season 2 of the show too, I know season 1, you were very intentional about how you went about putting it together and what your goals were. What does season 2 look like? I mean, is it more of the same, or are you going at it from a different angle?
Season 2, I plan to design season 2 much more like a House Hunters for senior living, and with a little bit of intervention thrown in. So I would really love to show more of the real estate options in season 2. But what happened in season 1 is I have to have cooperation from communities and senior living operators to do that. So the benefit is I've built a lot of trust, and I have one company here in Minnesota that is willing to let me in and basically open up their doors and give me the resources I need to truly film inside different senior living communities. But we'll just see. It all depends on the distribution. So it's weird because it's like I can't secure the funders until I know what the distribution is, and the distribution doesn't happen until so it's an interesting dance of juggling different pieces at the same time and hoping it all comes together at the end. But my desire is that's why I set out to do this 30 in 30 campaign, is to produce some content
Tell us
and
tell
kind of
us about that. Tell our audience about that.
okay, so I came up with this crazy idea
This is
this
awesome.
summer. Yeah, this is another crazy idea. Hey, well, because my crew they're in Chicago and we're trying to brainstorm season 2 and our strategy and what we're going to do with this PBS situation going on. So I said, what if we just got cameras and we just got a small crew together and we did this blitz of following me visiting 30 senior organizations in 30 days. Okay, that's great, Melissa. Let's do that. Okay. So it was very ambitious, put together kind of at the last minute, but we just completed me touring 30 senior organizations in 30 days. And we're in the editing process of that. That will launch October 1st through 30th. But my goodness, I'm so excited because this is much more like what I would like to see us do in season 2, is really digging in to what the options are for communities. And with each community that I toured, I had them sit down with me and give me some educational components. Like, tell me one
Mhm.
thing you really want the general public to know. And each one of those components, we are then compiling and creating another documentary, but a documentary feature film out of that. So we're going to feature 30 different senior communities giving really good hands-on educational expertise to the public.
That's amazing. I can't believe you
So
did that in the summer.
I know. I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission. And
I see that.
the thing is, this isn't just me. I actually feel very uncomfortable being in the spotlight and being in front of the camera. You would never guess that, but I truly don't see myself as any kind of expert. I truly see myself as I am crazy enough to just put myself out there and to try ideas and see if they work. And I really, really want to propel what I see happening as all these true experts, all the real talent and passionate people who have gifts and love for older adults that are doing the hard work every day. I want to promote that. I want to show that to the world. I want to tell those stories to the world. And so, as long as it works and I'm able to continue doing this, I will do this because I just see it as me giving a microphone, me giving another platform to the industry to continue to do the great work that so many people are doing.
You feel like we're in a crisis? Is that why this work is so important?
Yes, I do. I feel like as a society, we're in a crisis because we wait to understand what's coming down the pipeline for us, all of us, if we have the blessing of living long enough. And that's a crisis. And then I think we also have a crisis in the senior living, the senior care industry. There's not enough, even if everyone could afford to move into a senior living community, there are not enough, there are not enough apartments, there's not enough staff to take care of everyone. And so that's why we see such a big thrust in senior living communities doing a lot of outreach and home and community-based services, types of care and outreach, because we all know we are in for it. We are kind of bracing for a big hit as far as how do we care for our aging population, all of us as we age. And we all know the struggles that the senior living industry has already. And we unfortunately see a lot of the negative things in the news. We've got to manage that. We've got to get that under control. We have to come up with more innovative ways to deliver care. And I think a lot of that is going to depend on how we use technology and AI moving forward, how some of these deliveries are managed. But yeah, I think we are in a crisis. But I think Americans are really good at being in denial of our crisis.
Yeah, it's definitely scary. I mean, I've been looking at the housing data. There was a report that came out last year, said something along the lines of even if every single development project was completed between at the time 2024 and 2026, it would only account for about 33% of the housing that was actually going to be needed. So, I mean, that's such a monumental gap that we have to cover. I'm not really sure what the plan is. I haven't really heard anybody propose anything that I was like, that's going to solve it, you know? So I think again, you're right. I mean, people are just waiting. It is a crisis because we as a country are waiting for this massive surge in population. Like 2027 is going to be there's going to be 11,500 uh, people, Americans that are becoming 65 and older every single day. And then it goes down from there, but still that's a huge influx. It's like I was at 4.2 million seniors in 2027, something like that. That turned 65. That's just a crazy number. I don't know how we're gonna solve that. And obviously, not everybody's looking for housing. Um, One of the questions I had just about you talking about the 30 by 30 was I know price tension is real for adult children because there's not a lot of options. Like that middle market is it's growing and growing and growing. There's a big divide between people who can afford it and people who can't. Did you come across any sense that there's anyone's trying to address the middle market challenge when it comes to senior living, or is that another kind of crisis that has not really been figured out yet?
Yes, I believe, and we have a couple spots that feature home care and home-based services. I think that is what will transform senior living and be able to at least ease some of the pain in the middle market is quality home-based services and clinical services that can at least keep folks in their home longer so that the financial impact isn't devastating for them. So I'm excited that we have a couple home-based services that will feature that really give some good insight into how they're filling that gap, how they're bridging the gap in the senior living industry. It's exciting.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, people are living longer, healthier lives, right? So the need to move into a community based setting is not as critical, maybe, as it once was, right? So having someone come into the home maybe a few hours a day or a few times a week could be a viable solution for a lot of older adults and certainly save on costs versus a long term care option. So,
Yes, yeah.
yeah.
I think the statistics do say that most Americans want to age in place in their own home. So I think that I think that that solves a lot, at least temporarily. We'll see what happens. But in general, we just need a lot more services. We need a lot more senior living, and we need a lot more staff to be attracted to this industry. And that's the other thing, too, that my whole goal of really highlighting what a rewarding career path this is. And how many people, oh my gosh, in the 30 and 30 campaign we just did, how many people we interviewed that, yeah, in high school, I worked in dining services, and then now they're a director of nursing, or they're an executive director, or a marketing director. So many people who have moved up the ranks or changed roles. It is a fabulous career path and super rewarding, very hard work, but anything worthwhile is a lot of work. So I also want to try to attract by showing what senior living really looks like to younger people to attract more talent to our industry.
Building a show like this, I mean, you're essentially building story assets, right? And that, they're inspiring, they're educational, they're helping motivate people to learn more, to make decisions before they're in crisis, all of those things. I mean, how do you think leadership within a senior living community could apply that model? So if a sales director, for example, is listening to this episode, I mean, what's step one for them to start building those types of like story assets within the community that would actually help move the needle?
I think storytelling is such a critical component to sales and marketing in senior living. It's a critical component for any type of sales, but where I think that sales and marketing at the community level, how they can really help their job in their community is to start investing in from the time you get the first lead, from the first call in, to invest as much time as you can possibly give to that initial discovery. Who are all the players? Who are the decision makers? Who's the resistant one? And to start looking at every single lead as a story, as an episode, a potential episode. And
Yeah,
how
I
can
love
we
that.
help resolve their issue? And who can I employ from our community, whether it's a resident or another staff member, who can help me, who can engage with me in this lead to help them understand or help them overcome their objections so that they convert to a resident. I think it's not just the sales and marketing person's responsibility to invest in the stories of leads. So that's where sharing the real stories, sharing the stories of your leads with your team is critical, because now you're starting to build those relationships before they're even
Hmm.
on site, before they even tour. You are prepping your team and your staff and your residents with the new storyline that's coming in. And how can we as a community help them integrate as far as friends, socialization, healthcare, any type of services that we can connect them with. I think that's really critical.
I think it's hard to measure sometimes from a branding perspective. Sometimes it's hard to measure what that's generating for the community. How do you create a story that actually drives next step or causes someone to take action versus just watching it, just viewing it?
Here's where I think it's important to also be able to identify and connect your own story or the story of others in your community with that lead. The ability to connect with empathy. Maybe you haven't gone through this yourself, but maybe your parents have. Or maybe you can give an example of a resident who did move in, who say maybe was very resistant, but now they're thriving, they love it. You could connect that person or get a quote from that person to provide to your lead. So I think it's important to share your own story, because that also breaks down barriers of trust with your leads. If leads know you're willing to be vulnerable with them, they will be vulnerable with you. So kind of matching that vulnerability, because this is such an incredibly vulnerable time for your prospects. And the more empathy, the more support, the more commitment they see from you to try to connect on their level, I think will really help. And certainly that's kind of the method that I used personally. And even before my father was diagnosed, I had a grandmother that spent 8 years, went through the whole process. I watched my mother go through the process with my grandmother. And so I knew a little bit about it, and I was able to, share that story. Oh, I recall when my mother was going through this was really hard on her because my grandmother started getting very agitated with her and angry with her. So it just depends on what their story they're sharing with you. And being able to quickly connect something that you can relate to their story, I think is a very good strategy to build trust and connect with your prospects. I've had really good feedback from folks who have moved in, like, thank you so much. You listened. Just being a listener, it's amazing how much people need to, and you need to just vent, you need to just let it out. And that's hard to do when you're in this role, because you're hardly getting coffee, much less lunch in a day. You're running around the community. So I know personally, it's really hard sometimes to just slow yourself down and listen and ask those key questions about how they're really feeling, who's struggling the most, and to be able to connect with that person can be life changing.
I was just doing an interview on another podcast talking about the soft selling of senior living and how that ultimately what it is. It's tapping into the emotions of the person that you're speaking with, because we all understand that this is an extremely emotional, difficult decision. And it's something that you have to connect with someone on a human level first, genuinely connect with them. And it's not even about selling at that point. It's about making sure that they're aware of their options, and that if this is a good fit for them, that they understand why this might be the best option for them.
That's why I never saw myself as a salesperson. I still don't see myself as a salesperson. I see myself as really an advocate. And when you can view yourself that way, and this is where leadership is so important, because the companies that I've worked for that really facilitate and encourage their frontline sales and marketing people to be that advocate, then you're empowered to truly do what's best for that family, instead of, I got to sell apartments. I've got to, I have a quota here to fill. I have a census to grow. That's where I think in the long run, a community and a company, a management company or ownership company, builds so much more by truly having that integrity to be able to say, maybe you should check these sources out, maybe home care for now, but to really do what's best for the older adult and their family is, I feel like, why we are here and what our role truly is. Yes, we need to make money, but if you do the right thing, the money will follow. That's just my belief system, and it's worked pretty well for me so far. But
I think it's interesting too that I've seen quite a few communities that have actually changed their sales positions to calling them advocates. So
mhm,
I do think that that is in alignment with quite a few ways that we're now selling versus, trying to It's not like buying a car or a house or anything else. We can't just sell people on the amenities and the features. It's got to be human focused.
Yeah. And even overcoming these objections takes time. I mean, yes, even if somebody is in a crisis, it still takes time to educate them, meet them where they're at, and then guide them through the process to success, where they feel good about the process and they feel good about moving into your community. That's just as important as the sale, because you want them to be successful in your community, especially in a world with Google reviews.
The last thing I want to talk about with you is you've got an upcoming keynote presentation at Smash, which is the end of October, October 22nd, right? Is that when Smash starts? Yeah, October 20th. Okay. Yeah, that's exciting. Are you able to give our listeners a little taste of what they can expect your keynote? What's the core idea of your keynote, and why is that an important piece for you right now?
Well, at Smash, I will be giving a keynote entitled Plot Twist: How Stories Drive Success. And I am going to be sharing a few examples of major plot twists in senior living and business and entertainment in my own life that really can drive success if you make the choice to do something about, to jump on that plot twist and to turn it into something for good. So I'm very excited because I think this is going to be a great crowd. Smash is always full of just the most influential sales and marketing executives and high power people. So I'm honored to be in front of these people. Feel very much, it's kind of overwhelming to think of, being able to speak to people that I feel like have far more expertise in senior living. However, it's exciting for me because I think that I am going to bring something so inspirational and so motivational to them just by sharing my own plot twist and how it created a national TV series that's, gotten 2 Emmy nominations. So if we can apply that philosophy to whatever your plot twist is in your own life or in your own business, in your own community, what is that plot twist and how can you bring it to the next level is really the idea.
I can imagine this is going to be such a hot topic for people too, because no one else, I was there last year. There wasn't a single conversation that had anything to do with what it is that you're doing. So I think your approach has been so unique. And I think a lot more communities will probably get on board with creating more of a storyboard concept for how they go about telling the story of their community and their residents and trying to connect with people on that level. I think there's a lot of power behind that. When someone goes to Smash and sees your presentation, after they see your presentation, what would you want them to do in the next 30 days?
I would want them to write down what those plot twists, the pain points, whatever you want to call them are, and then literally brainstorm 1 to 5 strategies, ideas, crazy ideas. It can be as crazy as you think. And then that would be 30 days. And then 60 days, I would want you to wind that down to 1 point, 1 idea. And then by 90 days, I want you to have a plan of how you're going to implement that 1 idea. And it might fail. It might not. You might become the next big thing. But the whole idea is that we keep moving forward. We keep innovating. We keep strategizing and looking for new ways to reach our leads, to reach our prospects, to help families, to streamline our business operations, and to navigate this whole thing we're all doing, which is called life, at the same time.
And they'll never know if they don't try, right? So you gotta start somewhere.
Exactly. I love that. Like my dad used to say, if you have an idea, go for it and just don't give up on it. And you will know when the right time to switch gears and try something different. You kind of innately know that. So that's the philosophy. That's what I've done through this whole process of this show is I kept saying to myself, all right, well, when the door closes, I won't give up, but I'll just go back to senior living, work in community, do what I
Yeah.
love.
Yeah.
And the door hasn't shut completely yet. So as long as it's just a little bit open, I'll keep trying.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, my advice to anyone in a space where they're building anything is it's an iterative process. It's not everything's going to work every single time. So you try this thing and maybe you fail, but maybe there were two things out of the six that you tried that worked. So you take those two and then you carry those to the next, iteration of it and you go from there. So I think eventually you get to, a winning formula like you've put together here and then you just move forward from there. And now again, you're up leveling from where you were. So it's just a continuous process. So I love to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, and how that applies to your audience, from leads to leases, is sometimes I think corporate puts us in a box and we have our discovery form, and that's really good as a guide. But there's also something that you can add personally to that. Sometimes you can't change. Like I've worked for companies that, nope, this is exactly the way we want to treat every lead, and it's very much structured, and there's no give on that, which I think is unfortunate because each salesperson brings something so unique to the table, which is their story, their history, their personality. And so please, even if you work in a community where you feel very constrained in your ability to really step outside of the box, remember that your own story, your own personality, your own spin on things, your own warmth, your genuine self is what those prospects need to connect with, not a form. Yes, you can follow the form, but it's your story that's most important to convert those leads.
I think that's a great message for us to wrap up the show with. So, Melissa, thank you so much for being here. This was a great conversation. I know our audience is going to get so much out of this, and just I'm excited for people who haven't heard of the show to now go check it out because it is a powerful series that you put together, and I'm really excited to see what's coming next. So, where can our audience go to learn more about Inside Senior Living or connect with you directly?
Well, to learn more about Inside Senior Living, you can go to our website, which is insideseniorliving.tv, or best way to connect with me personally and the show is on my LinkedIn, and I'm Melissa Hannah or Melissa Hannah Fritz on LinkedIn. I'm out of Minneapolis. And also, if you want to watch the show, it is available on pbs.org/Inside Senior Living. So many ways, even Google it. It's kind of fun. It's kind of fun when I have family members that will Google TV shows about senior living, and then up comes Inside Senior Living, A Man on the Inside, and Tyler Perry's Assisted Living. It's kind of fun.
You're in good company. That's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's
Well, I
great. Yeah, we'll make
appreciate it.
sure. Yeah, we'll put all that in the show notes so everybody can get access to it.
Thank you so much, Jerry.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a great interview. So thank you. And so as we wrap up today's episode, I want to extend a huge thank you to you, Melissa Fritz, for joining us and sharing the origin and impact of Inside Senior Living and how story truth can change family decisions. We'll link your website, your PBS pages, and smash details in the show notes so listeners can connect. And as always, we hope you found this episode insightful and inspiring. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform and stay tuned for more episodes where we continue to explore the evolving world of senior care, covering everything from innovative care models and leadership strategies to family support, technology, and the future of aging. And remember that From Leads to Leases isn't just an audio experience, we're also a video podcast. So if you want to see the video versions of our episodes, like the one here with Melissa, make sure to subscribe for free to our YouTube or Spotify channels. I'm Jerry Vinci, CEO of CCR Growth. Thank you for joining us on From Leads to Leases. And please like, subscribe, and share this episode with anyone who might find it useful. I'm truly grateful for your time and attention. And until next time, lead with strategy and with heart. Chat with you again soon. Thanks, Melissa.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to From Leads to Leases. Are you ready to fill your rooms faster and increase occupancy? Visit ccrgrowth.com to learn about our Senior Growth Innovation Suite, a proven system to generate highly qualified, tour-ready leads, accelerate sales, and reduce acquisition costs. Let's connect and turn your challenges into opportunities. See you next time.